Okay.
Perfection.
Wonderful.
Right.
Are you good, Chris? Yep.
Go ahead.
So, welcome to tonight's episode of Democracy Defenders. And we are really excited to have Chris Ahern from the North Carolina Democratic Coordinated Campaign based in Gaston County. After graduating from Belmont Abbey College with degrees in education and psychology, he taught English at Ashbrook High School for 2 years. After the budget and funding issues in Gaston County Public Schools last year, he pivoted to political activism, hoping to defend public education by advocating for candidates who will prioritize it. He currently lives in Mount Holly with his wife, Emma. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the North Carolina Judiciary's role in defending democracy. Extreme judges on the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals have enabled the passing of gerrymandered maps that do not represent North Carolinians. What is the plan to retake control of the courts and to reestablish fair maps for North Carolina? Chris, it's all yours, and I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much. So as that introduction stated, my name is Chris. I'm from Raleigh. I moved to Gaston County to attend Belmont Abbey, and I've been working as a field organizer in Gaston and Lincoln counties for about a little over a month now. And so my job is to both spread awareness for all of our candidates, both local and at the state level, and to really push the ground game to try to get as many people informed about the upcoming election and the options that they have. Today, I wanted to focus on the judiciary specifically because that is a category of candidate that can frequently get overlooked. They kind of sit in the shadow of our opportunity to elect a senator, and they aren't quite as personal as so many of our local candidates are able to be. And so I wanted to A, highlight them, and B, highlight their importance in today's presentation. So first and foremost, I want to think bigger picture for a moment. This is the Democracy Defenders Zoom forum, right? And so I want to bring our attention real quick back to what the actual definition of democracy is before we get into how our judiciary should function to defend it. So this is from the Webster's Dictionary. A democracy is a form of government in which the people elect representatives to make decisions, policies, laws, etc. Notice that flow, right? It goes from the people to the representatives. The people are the ones choosing their representatives. In too many cases, the representatives are the ones choosing who their voters are. So let's go and give a little bit of a history lesson first. So in 2024, this is what the population of North Carolina voted for their statewide House and Senate candidates. 51% voted Democrat, 50% for the North Carolina House, 50% voted Democrat for the North Carolina Senate. Now, one might think that in a representative democracy, we would get a somewhat proportional percentage of our representatives to reflect what the people are voting for. This is not the case. As we can see, Republicans hold the majority in the House and the Senate, right? Now, why is this the case? There is a choke point between the people's actual votes and how people are actually represented. In this case, in the 2024 election, it was the court, the GOP court. The plan is to, after 2028, retake both the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals so that we can get the Democratic majority in the North Carolina House and the North Carolina Senate that accurately reflects the population of North Carolina. These are the races that we have currently. Justice Anita Earls is running to defend her seat for in the North Carolina Supreme Court. Judge John Arrowood is running to defend his seat in the Court of Appeals, as is Toby Hampson. And Judge Walczyk is running to replace the previous judge who was a Democrat. So we are playing defensive. So I want to get into some particular cases because this big picture stuff is all well and good. It's important to see who the candidates are, how they affect kind of these bigger pictures. But I want to get into three particular cases that have taken place over the years to erode our democratic institutions and how the courts should be posed to protect them. So I want to start with Griffin versus the North Carolina State Board of Elections. Some of you may be familiar with these. These got a lot of attention at the time. As you know, Allison Riggs won her bid to get onto the North Carolina Supreme Court by 734 votes. This was recounted twice. And she was poised to take her position, right? Unfortunately, the Supreme Court voted 5-1 to block that certification. Riggs recused, as this is her own certification, and Earls is the one dissent, right? Because of Riggs's opponent, Griffin's challenge to 65,000 ballots. In April, the Court of Appeals ordered that these voters needed to provide eligibility proof, voter ID, within 15 days, or these votes would be lost. That is a massive number of votes simply thrown away due to ineligibility for photo ID, right? Later, the Supreme Court partially reversed that, but let stand some of the military and overseas votes, these mail-in ballots that are being attacked, right? Finally, on May 5th, a federal district court ordered the Board of Elections to certify the pre-challenge count. So that is an institution outside of North Carolina intervening. This shouldn't have been the case. The North Carolina Supreme Court should have, well, let me admit someone else, should have not blocked certification, should have let this recount through. These ballots were fine, right? But because of the it being captured by a Republican majority, they were blocked, right? Let's take a look at these votes. These were voters with allegedly incomplete voter registrations, military and overseas absentee voters who did not include a photo identification with their ballots. This was particularly controversial because federal and state law do not require this. There are a lot of stipulations as to when this is required, and throwing out these votes without ample time to go and recast would be a violation of these people's abilities to elect their representatives. And voters who are children and dependents of North Carolinians and were born abroad, right? Just thrown away. Fortunately, the federal court intervened, and we were able to certify Allison Riggs's candidacy. But this is just one example of the Supreme Court, since it was captured by Republicans, swapping and eroding some of our institutions, right? The next case I wanted to show you guys is Stein versus Berger, which happened in April and May of 2025. Senate Bill 382 issued sweeping reforms tied to hurricane relief. The General Assembly transferred authority to appoint members of the State Board of Elections to the state auditor, then Dave Bolliak, a Republican, from the governor, Josh Stein being a Democrat. This is a way to consolidate that power in the hands of Republicans. The trial court found this provision to be unconstitutional. This is not the role of the auditor. This is the role of the governor. However, the Court of Appeals ruling stayed that lower court, allowing this structure to take effect, and it allowed the three Democrat majority to get swapped by Dave Bullock to a Republican majority. And then this case got tossed up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court declined the opportunity to stop this order. So what does that actually look like? Earl and Riggs, of course, dissented. So this is our North Carolina State Board of Electors. We're going to get into a little bit of the details here. Francis X. DeLuca is the chair for Eggers, and Angela Hawkins are the other two Republicans on the State Board of Electors. Millen and Carmen are the two Democrats. They actually, I just popped off watching their they're having a meeting right now to determine early voting sites, which I will get to in just a moment. So this Board of Elections has a big role in certifying the plans for people's ability to vote, right? The county's early voting plans that are not decided unanimously, so any county whose Board of Electors are split on a particular plan for voting, that plan goes up to the Board of Elections, and the Board of Elections reviews it, and the Board of Elections votes on it. They have 20 left to decide. There was about 100, and a bunch were unanimous. 20 left are still split. The big controversy is Sunday voting. Do people get access to Sunday early voting locations? It's on the weekend. A lot of people might find that the most opportune time to go and vote. Matt Longworth, a Republican on the Board of Education in Anson County, says that by having Sunday voting, we are requiring people to work on the Lord's Day. And I do believe that the downfall of this country will be contingent on what we do with God. A lot of the arguments against Sunday early voting sites have to do with this line of thought. However, there is another line of thought that has a lot more evidence to support why Sunday early voting might be important and why Republicans might want to take it away. Matt Longworth's plan eliminates Sunday early voting, and the state board of elections approved it 3-2 along party lines. Many Black churches actually host Souls to the Polls events on Sunday. Sunday early voting is disproportionately how Black people go out and vote. It's a part of their practice. It is a part of when it is convenient to them, and that's perfectly fine. They should have an opportunity to vote on Sundays. Republicans have been trying to take away these Sunday early voting for a while. In 2013, Senate Bill 721 sought to cut Sunday early voting polls via a legislative act. This was overturned by a federal court because of racial discrimination, not because, hey, people shouldn't work on Sundays. It was overturned because the Republicans, when developing this law, went and actually found that it was predominantly Black people who were voting on Sundays. And so this fortunately was struck down, but now these Sunday early voting are being restricted not via legislature, but through boards of elections that are the state appointed by the auditor, that power removed from the governor, that power moved over by the courts. For the 2026 midterms, Lincoln County does not have any early voting on Sundays. Here is the plan that the early voting plan that has been approved. As a matter of fact, breaking, as I just mentioned, the North Carolina State Board of Elections are currently deciding on those split counties, those with the boards of elections that are split that I just mentioned. I got off of watching that live stream in order to come here. So far, today, they have said no to Sunday early voting locations for Craven County, Anson County, Wayne County, Harnett County, Nash County, and Greene County. I'm sure they will have said no to more by the time we are off this call. A Anson County Republican board member in this meeting has specifically invoked Chick-fil-A on why they don't like the idea of Sunday early voting. They like how Chick-fil-A's done it with Sundays off. Unfortunately, Sundays being off means that certain populations are less likely to be able to go out and vote. Millen, one of the Democrats on that board, at the beginning of the meeting proposed that state board members be prohibited from working with the auditor's office on matters that would favor any candidate, political party, or racial, ethnic, or age group. Reasonable proposal. She said that the board members needed to determine whether plans were reflective of local needs or components of a larger master plan to help candidates of one party get elected. Unfortunately, the chair argued that board members should be allowed to consider input from public officials, advocacy organizations, and political groups before exercising their own judgment. Talk to whoever you want, coordinate with whoever you want before voting. The motion was rejected 3-2 along party lines. Again, this happened just a few hours ago. The court's decision all the way back has had these chain effects all the way to literally right now and affecting this election. So let's talk for a moment about gerrymandering. This is the third of the decisions that I wanted to focus on because this is the big one. This is the controversial one. This is the 2019 congressional election map. It was rated a B by Princeton University's gerrymandering project. This gerrymandering project essentially looks at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different maps across the state and determines how good they are. Do they favor one party versus another? Do they favor incumbents versus new candidates, and rates them on their quality? It's a pretty interesting system. I sent the link into the Zoom chat in case you wanted to look at it deeper yourself. It doesn't have just have North Carolina. It has all of the United States, and it has maps going way, way, way back. This map in 2019 got a B. The reason it didn't get an A is because it favored incumbents over new candidates. The Republican legislature proposed in 2021 this gerrymandered map. It gets an F. You will see it goes and it cuts up a bunch of these northern counties to make them a lot less, these northern districts, to make them a lot less likely to vote blue, right? Fortunately, in the Harbor versus Hall case, February 2022, the Supreme Court upheld that partisan gerrymandering could violate the North Carolina Constitution. This map was thrown away. There was a 4-3 Dem majority at the time. They did not say that every partisan map is unconstitutional. Instead, they affirmed that extreme partisan maps, such as the one I just showed you, could cross the line into unconstitutionality, and they struck down this map. The legislature was ordered to redraw these maps. They redrew the House and the Senate maps, but once again, when they redrew these maps, the congressional map was rejected. As such, a trial court brought in special masters to develop an alternative map for the upcoming midterms. This is the map that they developed. very similar to the original map. It again got a B due to the fact by the Princeton gerrymandering project, due to the fact that it slightly favored incumbents, but overall was not partisan gerrymandered. Unfortunately, you can see how this compares to the one that the Republicans brought. Massive districts cut away. Massive swaths of people whose representation is now worth less. Unfortunately, this was not long-lived. After those midterms, the Republicans gained the majority in that Supreme Court, 5-2. And they reconsidered the case that had already been settled barely a year before. They agreed to reconsider this constitutional question that had already been decided, unprecedented choice, and immediately after that partisan flip. Not exactly subtle. In April 2023, the court decided claims of partisan gerrymandering were actually non-justiciable political questions under the North Carolina Constitution, which means that they are political questions that the courts do not have the authority to decide. They gave the power of the courts to safeguard people's rights to vote, rights to fair maps, away from themselves back to the legislature. Whatever the legislature says goes. And so here is the congressional map that we have now. 2023 F. Jeff Jackson, the Attorney General, Jeff Jackson, the Attorney General at the time, released this statement. The court's ruling in Harper versus Hall today is a devastating blow to democracy. Our Constitution is supposed to be a check on the power of the legislature, but these Republican justices have surrendered that role, taking power away from the people and giving it to an out-of-control, gerrymandered Republican supermajority in the legislature. I will not stop fighting so the voters choose their representatives, not the other way around. Harkening back to what I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation. So, what do we do? These courts have, I've given you 3 specific examples, went into perhaps too much detail on the chain reaction that those decisions have. So, what do we do? Well, this cycle, Earls is up for re-election. The Democrats are looking to defend her seat. We obviously have to, right? If we lose another seat, we lose the opportunity for dissenting voices, which is so important when these decisions get tossed up to federal courts to look at what's the opposing side's ideas, right? So if we defend Earl's seats, we will be able to solidify these 2 seats and defend them. And then in 2028, we get to be on the offensive. Chief Newby, Berger, and Beringer are up for re-election. If we are able to, in 2028, successfully pull off an offense on top of successfully defending Earl's seat, we could get back either a 4-3 or a 5-2 majority in the Supreme Court if we run a good offense. That's only possible if we defend Earl's seat, right? For the Court of Appeals, it's looking slightly worse, but similar situation, right? All 3 of the Court of Appeals seats are up for re-election. Collins is being replaced by Walczyk. Airwood and Hampson are reelected. But all 3 of the blue seats are on the ballot. These have to be defended if, in 2028, we want to come after Dillon, Carpenter, Wood, Gore, and Griffin. So, overall, the strategy here in 2026 is to protect Anita Earls, Airwood, Hampson, and Collins. We are playing pure defense. There are no Republican seats up for election to set us up for 2028 when both of these courts can be flipped. Now, it's necessary to let people know about this, right? The reason I dove into those particular court cases, showed those particular maps, is because we, the people, need to be A, aware, and B, have the tools to talk with our fellow voters about the situation of North Carolina. So much the federal politics gets all the attention. Getting Senator Roy Cooper, getting Governor Roy Cooper into the Senate so that he can be Senator Roy Cooper would be awesome. He can go and put safeguards on the executive branch, stop tariffs, all of these federal issues, right? But on the more local level, our state is and our state courts are the ones who are passing rulings that affect our everyday lives. The Supreme Court is the one who makes a ruling that says, hey, the governor doesn't get to decide the Board of Elections. And so the Board of Elections shifts to the Republicans. The Board of Elections shifts to the Republicans. The Republicans are able to certify maps in contested counties. These contested counties, the Republicans propose maps that mean that you cannot go down the road on a Sunday afternoon and cast a ballot. And so these issues bring this big idea, these the state judiciary, down to the actual impacts that it has on everyday Americans like you and I. These decisions, these votes for our statewide judiciaries affects how you are able to live your life. They affect how your neighbor is able to live your life. And they affect how they can vote in the next election. And so, in order to defend democracy, to allow people the access to vote, to allow people the choice to decide who they want their Supreme Court justices to be, who they want their appeals court justices to be, who they want their state representatives to be, we need to push these judges as people who are defending democracy. So our next steps is to do our best for them. Vote for them, and to tell people about them and get involved. I've mentioned to all of you guys before, I am the field officer, the field organizer for Lincoln and Gaston counties. I am on the doors every weekend talking to voters about Roy Cooper and our judges and our local candidates. You can come out and also talk to people about Roy Cooper, Anita Earls, our judges, so that we can better defend democracy. If you would like to join us, I can pop my email into the chat. Or if you have any questions all about what I do or the issues I just talked about, I'm probably going to pour over these maps some more. I really enjoyed putting together this presentation. I didn't know that Princeton had put together such an interesting resource. And so if you want to talk more with me about it, or just found something interesting that you want to share, please do reach out. Are there any questions?
Chris, thank you. Anybody that has a question, please go down to the menu bar at the bottom of your screen. It will say raise hand, and you can click on that and your hand will come up and I'll call on you. I have a question for you. I saw some positive news this past week or the week before, where Governor Shapiro had vetoed a bill like 953, 958, whatever. And it seemed like a really big deal, that it could definitely protect our voting rights. But it doesn't sound like maybe there was that much accomplished with that.
So I believe you are referring to the House Bill 958, with the Protect Our Vote event. there was something accomplished there. This veto gets national attention, right? A governor going and pausing a bill means that it has to go back to the House, and these legislatures have to waste time to try to overcome this veto, right? He's vetoing a bill that goes and tries to make it harder to vote. I know there was a lot of stuff in that bill, as there always is, but it eliminates a week of early voting in primaries, and challenges and removes there's a window called ballot fixing right after an election, where if you cast a ballot, but something is wrong with it, maybe you you misspelled your name or put the wrong date or something like that. There's a process that you can undergo to get that fixed. That's part of the reason my job doesn't just run. Ballot curing. Yes, thank you. That's part of the reason why my job doesn't just run through the election. It runs a little bit past that, because I'm going to be part of that ballot curing process. That bill seeks to shorten that window to only 3 days after the election. So that veto is important. It draws a lot of statewide attention. It is likely that the Republican majority will be able to overcome that veto.
Darn.
But after November, probably.
Yes. Hopefully.
Anne. We can't hear you. Let me unmute you. Go ahead, Anne. Whoops, no. Go ahead, Anne.
Thank you. It sounds like you are out knocking doors. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, ma'am.
So are you working with the parties themselves for Gaston and Lincoln County to help with the recruitment to gain people to work that process with you?
Yes, ma'am. I have been in touch with both the Lincoln County and the Gaston County parties. They have both actually offered to use their headquarters for the launch site for these canvases. Before we had gotten that collaboration fully off of the ground, we had been kind of operating out of like the back seats of our cars in like school parking lots. So it's been really wonderful to be able to coordinate with these county parties. They go and funnel people to me, and I'm able to provide. I didn't quite harp on it very much in the actual Zoom itself, because I wanted to focus a lot more on the judiciary and the actual like minutia of what's going on there. But the coordinated campaign essentially serves as a avenue of coordination between all of the county parties, the state party, as well as some of our more national institutions like the DSCC and the DCC, so that we can share data. We're not double knocking on doors. We're able to use these large data systems so that we know who to target better and when to target them, especially. So that's what the coordinated does.
So, and then I have one last question, and this may be out of your purview, but I'll give it a shot. I'm curious what the party themselves is doing to prepare for what might happen at the polls in November with any kind of disruptions that might take place. How much round tabling are they doing to make sure that elections are going to go, hopefully, as seamlessly as possible?
So that's a great question. That is a concern that I have as well as many people. I am not privy to that specific avenue. I am not a part of the voter access team. I am not a part of the people whose job it is to specifically engage with that. However, based off of the way I answered that, we have our voter access team. We have the state party. Now, I'm not privy to the details, but we are developing the infrastructure for teams of lawyers to go and challenge if there is funny business. We have trainings of, hey, know your rights. I know our voter our impact team is looking to coordinate pamphlets in both English and Spanish on how to what to say if you were to encounter federal officials at a polling location, to both protect yourself and protect your right to go into that location and cast your vote. I know that this is, again, I don't know to what degree, but based off of all that I have heard from the people that I do speak to, this is something that they are taking very seriously and something that they are engaging with much more, to a greater degree, this cycle than other cycles.
Thank you.
Chris,
Thanks.
before I turn it over to Vicki for her question, how do we get that brochure that talks about voting, your voting rights, and if somebody approaches you when you're at the polls, will they be distributed to like Democratic headquarters, or do we need to pick them up? How do we get those brochures?
I think that distributing them to the headquarters is probably the plan. Again, I'm not a part of this team, but I can reach out and double check them.
Would you make a point to update me on that? So if we could even get them emailed to me, we could print them out and then get them printed or whatever. Because we are working with different immigrant groups to help them to understand how to vote. So this would be very, very helpful.
Yes, ma'am. I will follow up with you on that. I will talk to my Rod is in closer contact with those teams, so I will follow up with her about them tomorrow.
Terrific. You don't have to call me ma'am. You can call me Mal.
Sorry, it's a habit.
That's okay. That's okay. Vicki, all yours.
You can tell he's a good Southern boy.
Yes.
Thank you.
No offense, Chris. I didn't mean any disrespect by calling you a boy, but you're a good Southern boy. Let me just help fill in a little bit of your answer on that last question. I am in touch with voter protection at the state level because I'm the poll observer coordinator for Lincoln County. And yeah, I mean, I don't know details either, but I know that they are putting together teams of lawyers, larger teams of, I mean, they always have teams of lawyers, but larger teams of lawyers than they have had in the past. And now I've forgotten what my question was. Come back to me. Let me think about it and come back to me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone else have a question for Chris? Please raise your hand. Not seeing one. Vicki, have you thought of your question yet? Because I don't see any other hands up.
Diane's hand is raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me go back. I did not say that. Diane, she physically, excuse me. Great. Diane, go ahead. Diane, let's see.
You're muted, Diane.
I'm not going to unmute her right now if I can. I can't. Diane, you're muted. I can't unmute her.
Yeah, no, yeah. Okay,
Now
I'm
you
sorry.
are. There you are. Good.
I thought you had to unmute me, Mel. I'm
No,
sorry.
you have to do it. Thank you.
Okay, Chris, thank you for your presentation. Much appreciated. As far as the coordinated campaign, several people have offered, and we can follow up with that after this discussion, to be sort of at least elite in East Lincoln County. So there's 3 places for you to be able to drop off packets, et cetera. But can you describe which lists you're working off of for canvassing in the coordinated campaign
For this weekend?
Right. For Lincoln County? Are you working for registered Democrats who haven't voted, or particular neighborhoods, or like how do individuals, when they offer their services, can they, say this is the neighborhood I can go to, or you request them to go places? How does it actually work? And are these registered Democrats, registered unaffiliates, or people who usually vote, or people who usually don't vote but are registered? Like, who are you targeting in the limited resources of the personnel who are willing to go out and canvass?
So
what's the most important to you?
great question. First and foremost, we target it's Democrats and unaffiliated. We do not knock on doors of Republicans. They can be convinced, but a person showing up on their door is not the correct avenue to do so. If I go over here, I can look to see which. So we usually have 2 things. First and foremost, we have a targeted precinct. Every time we go out and canvass, our data team has a particular precinct that we are supposed to be the highest impact in for that day. They have like a big picture plan. I can't exactly tell you if it's like people who vote are consist. There are a bunch of numbers to determine how likely this person is to come out and vote for the Democrats. There are a bunch of numbers for each voter. Some of them have to do with how likely they are to support Democrats. Some of them are how likely they are to come out and vote. There is a combination of those numbers that causes us to target them. I could talk to the data team to try to get you a bit more of a look at the specifics of how they make those decisions. But I know that those are the things that they are looking at. We have, so if I go to this weekend, we have a targeted precinct, which has not been given to us yet. We have a canvas launch on Saturday that I assume will be given to us tomorrow. But so we always have a targeted precinct. What we have also rolled out now is that there is there's a bit more of flexibility. So we have a few packets, which are neighborhoods that people can go and talk to voters in for each precinct. That if somebody wants to be more flexible, as you mentioned, with the locations, to be able to go to someone's house and pick up literature without coming to see me at all. And they have for example, I'm in East Mount Holly. Maybe my targeted precinct for this weekend is in Garrison, right? I might be more likely if I ask, hey, I see you're targeting Garrison. Is it okay if I could take a packet for East Mount Holly? We have those packets available so that if people have particular preferences, they can go and that supersede our targeted. We would like people to knock in the targeted precincts, but if they don't, we would rather have you on the doors. We have lists of impactful voters in each precinct to talk to.
So can I just follow up, Mel?
Yeah, go
Absolutely.
So the follow-up question to that is, so I wasn't trying to drill down necessarily how you choose, or where you choose, as much as what are when we're helping to get people to do this, they would be spending, 4 hours with you or by themselves. Like, what is the process that we can explain to people that how their time would be spent? Do they have materials that are specific to each candidate that is running for both state, local, and national races? Like, do they have something for each candidate and they go to House A and say, these are the candidates that I'm hoping to talk to you about? That's more of what so we can explain to people that we're trying to recruit for this.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Yeah.
So,
what materials would they be picking up and doing?
So there are two main materials they would be picking up. A is a virtual material. It is a list number. This list number gets plugged into an app that they can use on their phones that allows them to, when you put in the number, it pulls down a packet, a list of doors and voters that we are targeting that are in a certain geographic area. We try to keep those very compact, and we try to keep those lists to being about 30 to 40 doors, something that can be knocked in. Our target is about 2 hours for one packet. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more. That is the first thing that they'll pick up. This the app gives them the addresses, but it also has a script, which is very nice for especially first-time canvassers who might not be used to talking with politics with random strangers. It tells them exactly what to say. There are three main categories of questions. A, do you plan on voting? Who do you plan on supporting? And what are the particular issues that you care about the most? The other thing that our canvassers pick up are literature bags. These literature bags are composites of both our local candidates' literature as well as countywide material and our coordinated literature for statewide candidates. So that is something that they can quickly brush up on. Hey, look, this is Rod Powell. This is what he's running on. He is a retired teacher. He's mainly running on public education. It gives them some talking points to chat about that particular candidate at the door. And it allows them to have an object to give to people who are who just say, hey, here's some more information, or they can leave it on doors that don't answer. And so they come, they pick up those two things, they go out, they use their script, they talk to voters, they gather that data, they try to convince them to either, hey, I know you're a registered Democrat. Did you know there's a midterm coming up? Do you have a plan on voting? Or if they're unaffiliated, hey, do you mind if I chat with you about some of the issues that maybe might make you want to vote Democrat? Then you go through that list. They're able to complete it. And yeah, that's about it.
Do you have printed in your packs that you are giving out? Do you have the list of voting locations, dates, times? Is that part of your packets? Or will be that part of your packet so that someone would have the answer to the question of where do I vote or what times can they vote?
That is a good question. I'll be in the Lincoln Dems headquarters on Saturday, and I can check to see if that's out in the packets yet. I know the Lincoln Dems tend to spearhead their own literature packaging, so I do not know if that is specifically in there, but I will ask and I can follow through with you. I know I was just told that Gaston has theirs, so
Okay.
I will be looking at Lincoln's.
Thank you. Thanks, Kristen.
Great. And Vicki, I think you're the last one with your hand up.
I remembered my question.
Good girl.
Have you been working with our local candidates, Greg McBride and Rod Powell?
Yes,
sense from the fact that you know about Rod that you've worked with him, but he's also a county chair.
Yes. I met Greg McBride. I haven't done extensive work with him. I think we're stocked on his candidate literature. I've actually gone out and canvassed with Rod before. And we've worked together on a couple of occasions. So yeah, yes.
And for those of you who are interested, Democratic women, as far as I understand it, are meeting various days of the week, putting together packets for just for Chris and for Forrest Chambliss, who normally runs our canvassing. But yeah, I mean, I know Lincoln County puts together literature packets for canvassing.
Forrest and I they work together closely. I was texting with him even earlier today.
Oh yeah. Thank you for coming, Chris.
Oh, of course.
Are there any last minute questions before we wrap this up? Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much for your time and all the information that you've shared with us tonight. And we really appreciate it. And if you think of, anything else that we can do at our grassroots level, put it in the email to me, shoot me an email.
Yes, ma'am.
And our next Democracy Defenders will be on Thursday, September 17th at 7 p.m. And I'll be announcing our guests for that Zoom meeting in the next week or two in our Facebook group. Thank you, everyone who came tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much
Appreciate
for
it.
having me. One more thing I do want to point out. If you do have any questions or follow-ups or anything at all, that is my email. All of that goes directly to me. So if you want any of those questions that you have that an hour from now you're like, oh, shoot, I meant to ask about this, please do just shoot me an email.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Y'all
Thank
have
you
a great
for
night.
coming.
Thank you,
Good
ma'am.
night.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye.